Night. Buckingham Palace is shrouded in silence. The guardsman is as motionless as a marble statue. Suddenly, a figure emerges from the darkness, a drunken tourist, swaying, heading straight for him. "I bet you 100 you don't even move," he yells, unbuckling his belt. The crowd gasps. A moment later, something happens that no one will forget. But what exactly? London was sinking into night. Buckingham Palace towered in the soft light of the street lamps, its white walls shimmering after the recent rain. The city was quieting down and the tourists were leaving. At the gate, as if carved from stone, stood a guardsman, Private William Hunt. The red tunic fit perfectly. A rifle with a bayonet fixed rested in his hands. Polished boots reflected the light. He didn't blink, didn't twitch, gave no sign of life. The royal guards don't move. They're a symbol of order, tradition, and power. People come, photograph them, marvel at their immobility, but no one ever crosses the line. Until tonight. A man came out of the alley. Tall, slouched, wearing a crumpled Manchester United shirt. His face reflected a combination of fatigue, alcohol, and a defiant smirk. In his hands he held a half-empty can of beer. The crowd parted. "Hey, soldier boy." His voice echoed through the courtyard. The guardsman didn't react. "Why are you standing there like a mannequin?" He took a few more shaky steps, leaving behind him the smell of alcohol. People began to look at each other. "Are you even alive? Or just a well-made wax figure?" Silence again. "Oh, so you're one of those, huh? The ones that don't move?" He leaned forward and slowly extended his hand. His finger poked William in the shoulder. The crowd gasped. The guardsman remained motionless. "Okay, you didn't even twitch?" The drunken man laughed, looking around at the people as if expecting support. "You didn't get any." Most of the tourists stepped back. Someone turned on the camera on their phone, anticipating that something bad was about to happen. But the man didn't stop. "What, maybe you need a recharge? Or did you forget to change the batteries in there?" He leaned even closer, reeking of alcohol and sweat. "How about this?" And he snapped the button of his uniform. The sound of metal echoed through the air, hitting the silence like a stone against water. The tourists stopped whispering. A woman on the sidelines took the child's hand and pulled her away. But the drunk took no notice. "Or maybe you're not moving because you're afraid." He smirked, swaying in place. "I'll bet you 100 I can make you move." He took a step closer. Too close. The guardsman still didn't move. But something inside him had already changed. The crowd around the guardsman was no longer just staring. People were frozen. Tourists with their phones, a couple of elderly Brits, a group of students from the US. Everyone sensed that the drunk had crossed the line. But he didn't stop. "Come on, friend, give some reaction." He wheezed, swaying. "Should I give you a smile? Wave a hand? Anything at all?" Silence. "Oh, you're sad, bro." He picked up a can of beer and made like he was going to spill it on the guard. The crowd gasped. Someone whispered, "Don't." But instead, the drunk threw his hands up sharply, as if he was going to scare them. The guardsman didn't move. "Huh, that's stamina." He laughed. The men whispered. Some covered the child's eyes, others began to back away slowly, sensing something wrong. But the drunkard had already gotten the hang of it. He began to copy the guardsman's move, waving his legs and arms like a drunken marionette. Left, 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 right, left. Some of the crowd chuckled, but more out of nervousness than a joke. "God, he's really doing it," muttered the girl with the phone. "What a cretin," added someone behind. But the tourist himself didn't hear it. He turned around to face the guard with a smirk and stood right in front of him, a few centimeters away from his face. "What's up, buddy? Still going to stand there?" The guardsman remained silent, but his shoulders were tense. "Listen, what shiny buttons you have here." The drunk reached out and snapped them again. The crowd held its breath. "I think he'll count them." He ran a dirty finger over the brass badge on the guardsman's chest. It was already a line. A few of the tourists hurried away, but the bravest stayed to watch. The man smirked, his eyes glittering with alcohol. "What, still not talking? All right." He made the biggest mistake of all. He reached down, picked up a can of beer, and poured it right on the guardsman's boot. The crowd screamed. "Oh, shit. He shouldn't have done that." A dark, wet stain appeared on the perfectly polished leather of the boot. Time seemed to stand still. The guardsman inhaled slowly, but he didn't budge. The drunk exploded with laughter. "Ah, wow. Are you going to stand still?" He untied the belt of his shorts. "How about I do something else? Let's see if you'll stay where you are. He lowered his shorts, clearly intending to urinate on his uniform. A woman in the crowd covered the child's eyes. But before he could do anything, the guardsman moved. The crowd gasped. Everyone saw it, the royal guard moved. The drunk didn't immediately realize what had happened. He was already reaching for his belt, about to do something unthinkable, but something changed. It was no longer just a statue in front of him. Now it was a soldier. Guardsman William Hunt took one sharp step forward. The sound of his boot hitting the rock sounded like a gunshot in the night. The drunkard froze. What? He muttered, sobering for a second. The men in the crowd stepped back. The tourist tried to move, but it was too late. Second step. The guardsman was right in front of him. His eyes were not empty, there was the fire of discipline in them. The crowd did not breathe. The drunk made a mistake. He raised his hand as if he were going to say something. But William moved faster. His polished boot flew into the air. It was lightning fast. A powerful knee to the groin. The crowd gasped. The drunk froze. His eyes popped out of his orbits. His mouth opened in a silent scream. He flew backward and collapsed right into his own puddle. Time seemed to stop. And then there was a thunderous "Olo" from the audience. Someone whistled. Someone clapped. An American tourist screamed. Damn, that was the best kick I've ever seen. But the guardsman had already returned to the rack. He was motionless again, as if nothing had happened. Only the drunk's face, contorted with pain, reminded him that it was all real. He was squirming, clutching his groin, letting out pitiful groans. The crowd erupted in applause. But it wasn't over yet. Because the police were approaching, the drunk collapsed to the ground, writhing in his own puddle, his face a mask of pain. Oh my shit. He wheezed, grabbing his groin, pulling his knees up to his chest. The crowd exploded with screams and applause. Wow, I've never seen anything like that in my life. He moved. He's moving. A few people rushed to record on their phones. Someone was already making comments on social networks. But most importantly, the guard stood there as if nothing had happened. The boots were perfectly aligned again. The rifle was steady. The expression on his face was stony. He didn't look at the fallen man. Didn't look at the crowd. He just stood there, as if nothing had happened. But it did. The drunk man wriggled in pain. What the fuck? He wheezed. He tried to get up, but his legs wouldn't hold. The crowd didn't know what to do. Someone was laughing. Someone was filming. Some couldn't believe this had just happened. Oh, boy, you're pretty banged up, aren't you? Came a voice. Give him a medal. He hit him as accurately as the clock on Big Ben. But suddenly there was another sound in the distance. Police. Heavy boots thundered on the paving stones. 2 officers were approaching the scene. The crowd froze. Someone put their cell phone away. Someone held their breath. The drunk finally propped himself up on his elbows. His eyes were still watery with pain, but there was hope in them. Officer, that bloody guardsman hurt me. The crowd fell silent. Everyone waited. The policeman came closer. He stopped, examined the wet, hunched tourist. Then he looked at the guardsman, who, of course, was motionless. The expression on his face, absolute calm. Zero emotion. The policeman slowly raised an eyebrow. Really? He hit you? Yes. The drunk nodded, still holding his groin. He just took off and hit you, didn't he? The policeman squinted. Yes. Right in my dignity. The policeman looked at the guardsman again, who didn't move. Not at all. Not a millimeter. Same stare forward. Same hands on the rifle. Same perfectly aligned boots. Like a statue. As if nothing was happening. The cop slowly shifted his gaze back to the drunk. Are you sure? Yes. The policeman grinned. Strange. The drunk man froze. What? Just. As far as I know, the officer looked around the guard slowly. The royal guardsmen aren't moving. The crowd chuckled. But he. The drunken man began to stammer. The policeman glanced at his partner. Did you see him move? The young officer suppressed a smirk. No, sir. I only saw the standard guard movements. The crowd erupted in laughter. You're bullshitting, shrieked the drunk. He tried to stand up again. He staggered, almost fell. The policeman stepped closer. Are you drunk, sir? Did you cause a disturbance? No, The policeman leaned closer. Were you trying to urinate on the uniform of a Kingsguard? Silence. All right, then. The policeman straightened up. Sir, you're under arrest for disorderly conduct, assaulting a guard, and public urination. The crowd erupted in cheers. What the hell? You have the right to remain silent. The cops lifted him to his feet. The drunk started mumbling, but no one was listening. The crowd clapped. The guardsman stood still. People began to applaud him. This guy is a legend. Bravo. I hope he sleeps well tonight. The guardsman did not react, but those standing closer noticed. His boot, despite the spilled beer, shone in the light of the lanterns. The policeman dragged the drunken man to the car, but he still tried to resist. You don't understand. He moved. He hit me. The officer just grinned. Of course, sir. And Big Ben can also dance, can't he? The crowd erupted in laughter. The American who was filming on his phone laughed the loudest. Boy, you just got sentenced with one punch. The drunk was squirming, but he couldn't resist. The blow was too precise. They put him in a police car. No. You must arrest him, he shouted, pointing at the guard. The policeman, already closing the door, looked back. The guardsman, naturally, stood still. Not a single emotion. Not a single muscle twitched. Absolute order. The policeman only shook his head. Sir, the guardsmen aren't moving. The door slammed shut. The police car drove off, taking the victim away. But the crowd didn't disperse. It was better than any show. It was worth coming to London for. Paris can keep its Eiffel Tower. We're keeping this. Laughter. Applause. Some even clapped for the guardsman. And though he couldn't thank or smile, he knew inside he had just become a legend. A few hours later, the video went viral on social media. Headlines: Police Garlight Royal Guardsman highlights tourist in a second. Fire Britain's guards. Unwavering. But dangerous. Faced with tears of joy, London gave a tourist a new meaning to the word low blow. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. What a service. The man has tested the laws of physics and military discipline at the same time. Now his descendants will be born with British accents. Suddenly I have more respect for these guys. A few days later, Guardsman Hunt stood in the same spot. Uniform immaculate. Boots polished. Face stone. Tourists approached, snapping photos, whispering. Some smiled wider than usual. And those who saw the video understood. This guardsman is not just standing there. He's guarding the honor of the uniform. And if anyone crosses the border, history would repeat itself. It's been a week. Buckingham Palace, as always, shone in the London sun. Tourists took photos, guides told stories. But one theme resounded particularly often. Was that the guardsman? The one who sent the drunk man into the puddle? No way. A young couple from New York pulled out their cell phone. Hey, race the video. Look, it's definitely him. A middle-aged British man walked up to them, grinning. Boy, if he's really there, I wouldn't get too close. The crowd laughed. But the guardsman himself? He didn't move a millimeter. Didn't blink. Didn't show it. But inside he knew. Legends live longer than news. And this blow will be remembered for a long time.